horse dewormer. Stugotz, the stupidity or the ignorance has reached that level now. I don't know if you read about this over the weekend, and I need to put this on the front end because I don't want the context of this mistaken. I don't root for anyone to die. I don't think that this is karma or the universe writing poetry. I'm not laughing at this stuff. I'm not listening to those calls to poison control and saying all of that is funny. I am just marveling at the skepticism about science being so strong that we arrive at a place where people in a panic, instead of listening to science about the vaccine, are ingesting horse dewormer and calling poison control,
right,
because the ignorance of that, to me, is literally breathtaking. I don't understand what is happening when you've arrived in a place where your skepticism of doctors who know more than you or scientists who have studied something all their lives, your solution is to ignore everything they say and just go use horse dewormer because you think that might kill a virus.
The FDA's tweet literally said, "You are not a horse. You are not a cow. Seriously, y'all stop it."
It's not just skepticism. People are sheep. Like, if you hear this stuff on Fox News, or if you hear your pastor talking about it, like, well, you should drink liquid silver, it'll make you feel better. People will do that because people are sheep, they're followers.
Well, this is why...
Except when it comes to the vaccine.
Yeah, except for that.
Well, the thing is, no, but the thing is, Stugotz, is that, and this is where I do think that some government agencies deserve criticism, right? The FDA for only until maybe in the next couple of days fully approving the vaccine, for taking a while to approve the vaccine for children, for sending out, like, you know, the government is now receiving lower ratings for how they're handling the pandemic, including the Biden administration, because they said everything was fine. And then 2 months later, we're back to wearing masks because the Delta variant got out of control. And so government mismanagement sows doubt, and stepping into that void are untrustful sources that are providing information like cow dewormer, like, you know, Regeneron, like all the, you know, what was it, hydroxychloroquine a year ago. These people end up, you know, trying to promote miracle drugs that are not useful, and they can become as trusted because occasionally government agencies get things wrong. It's why it's so important for them to never really get things wrong.
Forgive us here as we stumble about today. We don't have Mike or Billy. They will tell you at their leisure, if they feel like it, why it is that they are not here. But this thing that is consuming us at every turn, we will try to evolve past it. I know that many of you are tired of the way that all this stuff infiltrates and infects the sports escape. It's just impossible to keep ignoring out of nowhere 17 inches of rain in Tennessee and catastrophic flooding that is sweeping away children and stuff. And you're just getting hit on every front with some sort of depressing news.
You're getting hurricanes in the Northeast. You're getting fires out in California. The temperatures are in places are over 100 degrees where it's never been over 100 degrees. The flooding, as you just discussed, yeah, it feels like a crazy, crazy time right now.
Biblical, apocalyptic, and this is the part that the dual thing that just is an overwhelming depression. You throw in helpless and hopeless because it doesn't matter, you know, you're recycling with straws and what, you know, the world is on fire. I'm reading about, you know, places in Greece that are just baking, that people can't be outside. This is a depressing way to start the show. And I blame it on just watching Miguel Cabrera get to these milestones, bloated from last place, just trying to get 45 more hits before this season is over so he could get to 3,000.
Miggy.
Excellent transition, Stugotz.
Thank you.
Thank you for the help getting us back to sports. Miguel Cabrera is one of the greatest hitters we've ever seen. A triple crown, ridiculously. Now the 500 home run club. He's 43 hits away from 3,000 hits. But he's coming here at the end with a whole lot of compiler. His OPS is worse than Lewis Brinson's.
This is old
God.
school, though. No, but this is old
It's
school.
100
Dan.
points worse. It's 100 points worse, Whitty. He's in the 600s on OPS.
But this is the way people used to get to 500 and 3,000. They used to limp to it, okay? It wasn't Barry Bonds doing it when he was 40-plus years of age, okay? You had to limp to your 3,000, literally limp to the plate to get your 3,000.
Put it on the poll, please, Roy. Do you literally have to limp to the plate to get your 3,000th hit? I mean, the fact that Joey Votto's at 2,000, Stugotz, I know he walks a lot, but Cabrera is a super disciplined hitter as well. But if I'm him, I'm swinging at everything the rest of the way this season. I mean, what am I doing? I'm on the Tigers. I'm sitting here. The Tigers have to play me. And my OPS is not just below league average. They're sticking me in the middle of the lineup, and I've got nothing left. But I'm going to get to that damn 3,000, and I'm going to get to that damn 500. And I believe that Miguel Cabrera is, what is he in the league? Like 130th in OPS. Pujols is out here still doing it better than Miguel Cabrera. Like there is some there are some bad numbers around Miguel Cabrera, but this is the only way to last this long. You got to be compiler guy.
He's got a 692 OPS. His career is 922. Career 922. How good is he?
And yet, for a team that's 10.5 games out of the wild card, he's still fourth on the team in at-bats. In theory, the Tigers should be rebuilding, but damn it if not Miguel Cabrera is not on that lineup card every day.
I don't like what we're doing here. This is the best Marlin ever. Like you said, one of the best hitters ever. There are not hitters like Miguel Cabrera. That dude could be asleep, taking a nap in the batter's box and still react to a curveball and poke it to right field. Giancarlo Stanton, watching him hit and then watching Miguel Cabrera hit, I mean, it is night and day. There are not hitters like that anymore. Even the good ones. Fernando Tatis Jr., great hitter. Not the same as Miguel Cabrera. He's got Manny Ramirez vibes up there.
Did you just pull it back in my day?
I mean, it's just hitting today is a dying art. And
Put it on the poll.
Miguel Cabrera, he's one of the last ones. If you think
One of the
back
last
in,
true hitters,
in recent
yes.
years,
Yeah.
that dude is a pure hitter, and we don't have those anymore. And I miss it. That's right. This is a back in my day.
Roy, please put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Is hitting a dying art?
A dart.
Amongst eligible hitters, Miguel Cabrera is 121st
Oh, stop it.
out of
This is like just-
136.
Enough. man.
Oh, you're just
He's
trying
an
to get.
old
He's just trying to
man.
get to 3,000. Leave the man alone.
Best Marlin ever. Not even close.
Put that on the poll as well, please, Roy, at Le Batard, best Marlin ever. What does that mean?
I mean, it's one of the 32 teams. Is there 30 or 32? It's confusing in different sports. You never know, 30 or 32.
Is he
30.
the best Marlin
30.
and the best Tiger ever? Is that? I mean, wow.
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. He's just trying, one word, he's just trying to get to 3,000. Leave the man alone.
No one's going to remember his OPS. You're going to remember 3,000.
He's great. Nobody's disputing he's great.
We're mocking him right now.
Well, because, look, when you watch him play, he looks like a waterlogged corpse.
I'll take him on the Marlins right now. Have you seen the Marlins lineup?
So-
Lewis
well,
Brinson's
wait a
batting
minute.
cleanup for the Marlins.
Okay, hold on a second. You say the Marlins. I'm now you've done it, okay? Because I was watching a Marlins game yesterday as they
here we
get
go.
swept by the
Did
Reds.
you lose a bet?
This is what I want you to tell
You
me.
really like baseball, huh?
I do like baseball,
Weird.
and hitting's not a dying art. The skill level in that sport is just nuts to me right now. But the Marlins don't have a lot of it. And what I wanted to say to you is I got mad yesterday on behalf of South Florida and the Marlins. They're down 2-1. They're 4-game sweep at Cincinnati. All these good teams are just going to devour them the rest of the way because they're largely a minor league team with some good pitching. And up to the plate, down 2-1 with runners on first and second. Leon comes up.
This guy.
Well, he should I thought they just put some guy named Leon in a uniform. Like, they might as well be doing this at this point. Put it on the poll, please, Roy. Do you trust a man whose beard is too perfectly groomed?
I thought it was you hitting.
It was so bad. It was such a bad at bat. He could have swung the game right there. He took 2 strikes at the chest and then swung at a ball that hit the mound. Like, it was like, that is not a major league at bat. That is not a major leaguer. Where'd they get Leon? Why is he in there? What is happening? What they built a ballpark for that with how much in the way of taxpayer funds for Leon?
Leon's OPS is 496.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Man.
It's not a major
He's a
leaguer.
backup
They
catcher.
just
Now
got,
what
they
are we
got a
doing?
guy out of concessions. They got a guy out of concessions, and they put a jersey on him that said Leon and just said, go up there and see if
Everyone's backup catcher's fat and bats 180.
It's
This
a
is
good
not-
point.
This is
It's
not
so right.
unique
Yeah.
to the Marlins.
Yeah. Yes. Chris, you were so right about hitting, okay? Dan, what happened to Tony Gwynn? What happened to Wade Boggs? What happened to guys who were batting 370 late into the season? You have 14 guys batting over 300 right now in the
Nobody
majors.
chokes and pokes anymore.
It's
Nobody chokes and pokes
And the
anymore.
leader is
So, yeah.
323. How about a slap single?
Yeah, nobody's a slap hitter anymore.
slow the hell down.
Okay.
Sorry.
Put it on the poll, please. How about a slap single? Put it on the poll at Le Batard show. What do you want to do? Choke and poke?
Whatever happened to choking and poking?
Yes.
Yes or no?
Whatever happened to choking and
That's it.
poking?
Yeah.
Yes or no? And is everyone's backup catcher fat and hitting a $180? Okay, fair enough. But Leon is worse than most of them, and that at bat is as bad. Like he ruined my Sunday.
Really?
I went, look, the apocalypse is all around us. I chose to get the soothing medicine of Marlins Reds on a Sunday afternoon. Checked in, felt bad for Sandy Alcantara, who keeps going out there and doing nice things, and he's got Leon behind him. He's like, what did I do to deserve Leon coming up here with this terrible beard, hitting a $180, OPS under 500? I bet you DeGrom's OPS is better than 500. I'm not even kidding you.
Oh, I think it is. Yeah.
I bet you that I bet you DeGrom's OPS at this point is better than Cabrera's. Is that possible that DeGrom as a hitter?
It is.
No way.
His OPS is
DeGrominator.
758.
This is ridiculous.
I don't know if this is going to land on you the way that it landed on me, Stugotz, but in general, the ATM has been a source of unending annoyance to me since banks started holding my money and then charging me to give it back to me. But I just went downstairs a second ago because I wanted to get some cash to the Clevelander ATM.
Yeah.
And this has never happened before, where I put my card in and the fee is so large that I'm like, I said to the machine, oh, you bleep off.
Right.
And took it out and canceled. You guys are going to be shocked by this. I've never seen it this high. $12.
Get out of here.
Good Lord.
That's the Cleveland there
That's
for.
worse
I mean,
than
once,
Scarlet's.
Yeah, but once they have you here, they have you. And you're right, it is worse than Scarlet's. How do I know that?
But if you need cash at the Clevelander, you're desperate, so you're going to pay the $12.
That's, yes.
$12?
Have any of you ever heard of that before? A $12 fee to get your money.
Casinos have them. I don't know if it's $12, Dan.
Gosh, I've seen, yes, casinos will
But once
charge.
they have you, they have you.
Casinos will charge you $50 to take $600. That's a good one, actually, because you're right. They will, if you want a certain amount of money at a casino, they will charge you an exorbitant rate. But it feels more wrong to have just an ATM machine do it at not a place of casino desperation.
The only other place I've seen it is at nail and hair salons. They'll charge you like an $8 or $10 fee. It's crazy because they know you're desperate for cash because you have to use cash and then you have to tip in cash. So they just take all
It's
your
an
money.
extortion. I'm willing to say that charging me $12. The Clevelander tried to extort me this morning.
What if it was $10.95?
No, it can't. I'm not good with $3. It's my damn money. Give me my money, machine.
$3? You're going to go find another ATM?
I'm not okay with that. It bothers me every time. It's my damn money. All you're doing is holding
There's
it
a
for me.
convenience fee, though.
And all you're doing
That's how
is
they make money.
That's very inconvenient.
No, the way they make money is they've got my money. And so they invest it in things. That's not the way they make money.
It is. That
It's
$3 is
machine
everything.
company.
Yes.
Isn't it the machine company that's getting a good cut of that? Like it's the
I
people that
presume-
make the machine.
I presume they have to pay a fee to the bank, to every bank. And so in order to make this available to you, they have to charge a fee. What's the ceiling that you'll pay, though? $9.95?
It can't be multiple dollars.
Depends
you
how
can't
drunk
be
you are.
charging me.
$0. Like I haven't had cash in a decade. I don't need it that badly.
But we just want to know the price, like the charge, where you would have
Double
been okay
digits,
getting
double
You
digits.
still would have been mad, but you would have taken your money out anyway.
I'm telling you the entirety of my life, and it's gone over, the last 30 years that I've had a bank account. It has always been a bother to me. All you're doing is holding my money and profiting off of the holding of my money. Don't charge me more multiple dollars to get my money back from you.
They're profiting off proximity. That's what they're doing. I mean, I don't know where you do your banking, but go to the ATM at that bank and they won't charge you a
thank you.
cent.
That is correct, Stugotz. Thank you, as always, for making every calamity
come on.
in my life totally manageable if I just happen to have right next to me the ATM that doesn't charge me. Thank you, Stugotz. Ever present with your result-based knowledge of just go to your own bank. Yes,
Trying to
thank
help
you.
a friend out.
Just have money would have been a shorter cut to that. Just have money at all
Always have
times so
cash.
you never have to go to a machine. Thank
Put
you.
it all under your
Just
mattress.
not helpful at all. Just always be holding dollars, Dan, so the bank can never take it from you.
That's what Stugotz does. He just holds it and counts it while he sits there.
Yeah.
Do you ever plan to go somewhere and then take a circuitous route just so that you can go to your bank?
What?
When I go to the casino, my bank is out of the way. But I will go out of the way so I don't have to pay the $6.95 at the casino to take my own money out.
That's called running an errand, Woody.
But it's out of the way, right? Like it's casino night. You're going.
You're spending
and I'm
the
going like
gas
10
money. I know you're not spending that much on gas money, but you're spending money to go out of your way. Just pay the $4 fee. I mean, what are we doing here?
This is how they get you right here.
It's
Yeah. It's
convenient.
exactly
Yeah,
how they
paying a
get you,
convenience
right.
fee.
I'm going to walk 9 blocks on the Vegas
Seriously.
Strip to get to an ATM. Get out of here. There's one right in my face.
Chris, the convenience is we help keep your bank afloat by putting money in it. Give me my money. Give me my money when I want my money, and I'm willing to pay a fee that isn't simply gouging me. A fee is fine. $12, I want to fight your building. I want to fight the machine and the building that
It is
houses.
a lot. It's a lot.
I mean, it's
lunch. I mean,
You can't.
That's the chicken wings here.
You cannot charge me that much for that. That is offensive to me. That should be a crime. I want to prosecute the Clevelander. I want to bring lawyers. I want to bring a SWAT team down here to arrest that machine. You can't. That machine can build another hotel with its profits. That machine is keeping our economy alive in America.
You'd think with that machine they'd have some paper towels in the bathroom.
the machine is genius.
Oh, wow.
That machine should caress me. That machine should make me feel good about
Give you a-
depression. It should give out opiates, that machine.
Well, it might. I mean,
Yeah, it
that's
might,
a good
yeah.
point.
we're at the
Yeah.
Clevelander.
Yeah,
Good
that's
point.
Spencer.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Cash.
Now I've got just hands emerging from an ATM machine.
Giving you a neck
Soothing
massage.
Transformer
Be
sound.
warmer,
Soothing.
machine. Be warmer. Hold me, machine. You want $12? Hold me. Also, I'm not wearing very much. I want to be held in a way, you know what? Not just soothing, but sensual.
It should offer you some entertainment, like while you're waiting for your money to
It
be
should be
withdrawn.
Pitbull performing live on top of the machine for $12.
You're right. There should be something. You're spending $12 just to get your money. I mean,
Quick
there's
game of
gotta
Miss
be a little
Pac-Man while
bonus.
you wait, you know?
Gallagher. Yeah.
You see another UFC fighter after a fight just announced when the microphone was in front of him, and he didn't even say it with bitterness. I'm broke. It's been happening more and more where these fighters recently won a $50,000 bonus, and she just said afterward, I needed it so much. Like it's all going to pay loans, but we're broke. Even if we're winning, we're broke. And we've talked some about this before, that the fighters in that sport are paid, I think it's 18%, whereas you get in the sports that have unions and collective bargaining, it's closer to 50% of revenue. You have ESPN paying UFC, this is just ESPN, $1.5 billion, and you got fighters all over the place telling you after they win fights at the height of triumph, and it's not with bitterness. They're just telling you
Right.
to pursue this love that I have to be broke, and I have to keep fighting. I can't take a lot of time between fights because I'm broke. I have to keep getting out there, whether I'm ready or not, on a timely manner, maybe before I'm ready, just because I'm broke.
Well, how do you fix it though? I mean, forming a union, right? That would help.
Well,
certainly.
that's one place.
because they keep coming back to fight.
You keep putting pressure on Dana White publicly. I don't know if he's capable of shame and embarrassment, but you keep putting public pressure. I told you that the only reason I didn't want to fight Dana White, Stugotz, that the only reason I did that is because I was trying to circumvent the labyrinth at ESPN because they're partners, and anytime anybody would say anything that Dana White didn't like at ESPN or anywhere, because he doesn't have any use for journalism, because he wants to do it his way, because he's a Trump dictator guy and he doesn't have any use for unions or fairness or anything else. He just wants his money, and he gets his money, keeps getting more and more power. And the reason that I said, you remember how that went, correct? The interview was me asking him questions he was not getting at ESPN
Yes.
about how poorly paid his fighters are. And because I knew that was going to swing back on me, I just sort of threw a bunch of smoke and sparkle in the air by, saying, whatever it was I said about wanting to fight him, because I want attention paid to this. I don't know how else you I don't know how else you do this, but I would ask you to consider, as basketball and football have partnerships with their employees that make it so that any injustice these players may be suffering, maybe you don't think any of it's injustice because it's millions of dollars and they get to share in it, but at least they're collectively bargaining to be partners with their employer in a way that allows them to share the money. When Ariel Helwani comes on here and tells you about all these new deals that the UFC is signing, a kit for $1 billion, a Bitcoin fighting kit sponsorship, and that the fighters don't get any of it, it should bother you, especially, Stugotz, when you start considering the desperation that is the soul and the undercurrent of the fight game, choosing that as a living, fighting other desperate, broke people for money is about as close as we come to the gladiator
Sure.
stuff. Desperate broke people choosing a career path. And yes, they chose it. But sometimes desperation makes people choose boxing, and just the lack of education sometimes that's in play, the poverty you come from. This is not a universal truth, but largely there's a lot of desperation in those sports when you arrive at a place when you're choosing to fight another man for money as a career choice or another woman.
It does bother me. It should bother the fighters, though, and it should bother them enough where they're finally going to take a stance and do something about it. Like, Dan, I don't know the sport as well as you do, so I don't know. Are there fighters where the draw is big enough, where they are so popular, where if they didn't fight, it would really hurt the sport?
There are a handful of fighters, Stugotz, who are making fine money. You will not hear Daniel Cormier or Conor McGregor complain too much. Actually, McGregor has complained about it, but it complained too much about the fight payments.
But can't those guys be leaders, try to form a union, or at least tell the fighters, hey, we're going to sit out, or let's all sit out until we get what it is that we want? Because
It's
this
easy,
seems
Stugotz.
unfair.
It's easy for...
No, I know, Dan, I'm making it sound a lot easier than it is.
For
but
you to exert power, you exert the power of others very well. It's a little harder to do when your sport has a bit of a monopoly. What are you going to do? You're going to go, what many of them are doing is going and fighting the Pauls because it pays
Right.
for more money, going
Sure.
into the circus tent over there just to box.
The one person you would say would be John Jones that would be like, okay, if this guy steps away, that would be the thing. And he stepped away and he's been out of the fight game for what, 2 years now? And it doesn't matter, right? Like the interesting thing to me is that as you look, and Ariel Helwani talked to George St. Pierre, which is in retirement. He wanted to fight Oscar De La Hoya, and Dana White said, nah, you're not going to do that. Like, they still control them into retirement, right? Like, if John Jones wants to come back and fight, it's got to be with the UFC. There's no other way. But they all march to the same drumbeat. All the fighters, you hear the same thing. Hey, yeah, you know, it is what it is. We just got to keep
This
going.
is the problem, though, when you have such an imbalance of power, when you've got the funds being created by the people in the system who are physically courageous and powerful, but in this instance are powerless. There's a danger to this kind of dictatorship. I don't know that the audience cares, though, as long as they get their pound of meat every time UFC is showing fights.
I do believe if the employees all decide to band together and exercise some form of collective action,
Sure.
and then they're punished for it, that is a violation of the law. The National Labor Relations Board would then get involved. But at that point, your career may be over. And if you don't have any money and your leverage is that you could make money one day if you play by these horrible rules, what is the incentive?
Dana White is going to fight anything in the way of a union. I asked him about that, and his response was, I've never heard of unions making anything better. They do for some of the people who are mistreated, but they don't when you're in his position. They don't, though, Jessica. When you're in his position, unions don't make anything better.
But
against him,
aren't
though.
unions like why we have like a 40-hour work week and like people can eat lunch now and like the weekends exist?
You've
like
got fighters.
That's such a stupid thing to say. I'm sorry.
It's not for him. Not for him.
Well, they hurt him.
It might be a stupid thing to say. It's not a stupid thing to build your business on. If you have that kind of power and you can just continue to mine the oil of injustice, and nobody seems to care that fighters after winning fights are telling you they're broke. They're not being asked about being broke. They're volunteering it. They're being asked the question, can you take some time before your next fight? And the answer is like, hell no, I can't take some time. I got to make money. I got to eat.
Well, I understand why it's stupid for him because it's going to cost him more money when he has to pay people. But just the generalization that unions have never made anything better when like the vast majority of workers in this country since industrialization have had their lives improved in some way because of the original unions that formed at the turn of the century.
There's not a billionaire
completely ignorant to history.
There's not a billionaire in this world that hasn't gotten there through the exploitation of something or someone.
Well, and to me, the interesting thing to Tony's point about the contracts that these fighters sign, in some respects, this is born out of a sport that was maybe not going to succeed, right? And for a lot of these fighters, they probably signed their lives away when they joined because if they hit it big, then it's worth whatever sacrifice you make on the front end, whatever freedoms you have contractually. George St. Pierre signed at a time where the idea of him becoming a massive star was probably a very remote possibility. Making whatever it is that you do make is probably massive for him
And
and
with
his livelihood at the time.
And with no union and no collective bargaining, you can't fix the rules that have been in place since before your organization was making all this money. It's what ends up making it more and more like the NCAA, Stugotz, and it's what ends up making these bodies, there's a lack of humanity in it, as or more disposable than even the ones in the NFL, where you only know a couple of the skill position guys and you can run through any of the linebackers and you can make a running back position not matter in a salary cap sport. But even where the injustices are in football, Stugotz, at least they're collectively bargained.
Correct.
At least they're partners.
Not well, but they're bargained.
They're
Yes.
in the room and they're negotiating a more reasonable percentage of the profit and the revenue.
Even to Woody's point, though, you make it to the top of the sport. Tyron Woodley was a 5-time champion in his division, and he's got to go fight Jake Paul to make more money than he did as a champion.
They're making a lot more, Stugotz. That's how they're making relevant the Pauls, because the Pauls are smart about just come over here. You'll get a bigger percentage of the pay-per-view. We will end up splitting a pay-per-view in a way that
Why would
seems
you do it?
more reasonable. And someone like Ben Askren is going out there and getting knocked out because he's not a boxer and he's fat and everything else and not trying for a fight in a art or a skill set that he has not mastered. He goes out there, gets knocked out, and gets paid more in a fight for fighting a Paul than he did at any point in his career. It is crazy. I don't know how it changes, though, unless people get bothered by the too powerful having too much power and abusing that power. I don't know how many more winning fighters have to come out and volunteer to you that they're sleeping in their truck or that they're just not making any money in the fighting game, Stugotz.
If they all said we're no longer fighting, how quickly would it change? Do you think?
Stugotz, he can
Would it
get
have an
others.
impact?
He can get others to fight. We will watch
But that's
violence.
saying there's no real true star in our sport. I could just put any two people in the cage. That's all you people
Stugotz,
want.
there are true stars in that sport. Conor McGregor is a monster payday who will get paid anybody who fights opposite him. I'm talking about the feeder system. I'm talking about everything that happens before the 5 guys who get made. But even the biggest names in that sport have complained about the percentages they get. You got John Jones. He's the best fighter I've ever seen. He's the best fighter I've ever seen. He's gone, and Dana White leans into a microphone and says, what of it? What of it? He's just daring you to not buy his pay-per-view. He's putting on anything. They're putting on more fights than they ever have. More disposable bodies than they ever have. More guys that you haven't heard of and women that you haven't heard of than they ever have.
But if the fighters are interchangeable, and it sounds like they are, then there is no solution. And it doesn't seem like there is one.
They just propped up an interim heavyweight title, even though we have a heavyweight champion in Francis Ngannou, and Cyril Gane just won the interim heavyweight title. It's like, it doesn't matter, right? Like, we need John Jones to fight Francis Ngannou, and it'll never happen.
It's a little bit harder to happen, too, when you're buoyed and supported by Disney now, because it's not going to get smaller. It's just going to get more and more unjust, more and more powerful, shared among the people who have actual power. But in that sport, the part that's interesting to me is what they're doing for a living. Where do you want more valor than that in sports? You've heard me talk before about just the insanity, Stugotz, of stripping yourself down to your shorts and being in front of a whole bunch of people terrified you're going to get knocked out. But now add to that terror, oh no, I've got to win just to make money to feed my family. And so does that person across from me. And that's the desperation of what you're watching. And at the highest levels of it, they're making a ton of money. Like, it's spilling all over the place. But it's like what we're watching when, Bezos flies into the sky during a pandemic and you were watching these billionaires go into space and with no sense of what is happening beneath them. I'm asking you to examine what the pipeline is here. It's the same in baseball. You see what's happening with the minor leaguers. They get, a piece of bread and a piece of cheese, and nobody cares about the minor leaguers. Who is specifically being put in the meat grinder, Stugotz? It's the desperate classes. It's the people who don't have money. And the people at the top are making more and more money, and they don't have to share an even or even reputable percentage of it. And no one in the audience seems to care. No one. I don't see these fights not being watched. I don't see anybody protesting these things, even as the fighters themselves give voice, and they don't do it bitterly, Stugotz, because they're afraid of authority there. They're afraid of what power is there. They don't want to be telling you, oh, I'm broke, and also this is unjust. They just tell you flatly, I'm broke. They're not going against the power there.
To that point, Dan, regional MMA is really sad. I don't think people understand how sad regional MMA is, because you're talking about the bottom rung, trying to make it up, and you're fighting in front of 3 people, bare knuckle fighting, like, all right, let's do it, and you're fighting for your life.
I am made sad daily around here by the strangest things. Today, it was just going past a closed bookstore.
And the ATM.
That being said,
No, I wanted to fight the ATM. The ATM filled me with an unholy rage. That was not sadness. I wanted to fight. I wanted to square up with the ATM.
that being said, you mentioned a closed bookstore. I went to an open bookstore on Saturday. Love a good stroll through a Barnes and Noble.
It's great.
Unbelievably underrated. And Stugotz, I can't imagine you to be much of a book reader.
No, but fantasy
it's-
magazines, you sit down
Yeah.
at the Starbucks
Magazine
inside the
section,
Barnes and
yep.
Nobles. They have a better selection of Starbucks treats at the Barnes and Nobles than they do at any other Starbucks. How about that?
I don't think that's
no, they
true.
do. I'm telling you.
I don't think that's
Things you don't see at a normal Starbucks, you'll find them at Barnes and Nobles.
I-
Dan.
Get like a $9 coffee. It's great.
so much of this is implausible, up to and including Stugotz browsing through a bookstore.
Do they still have the CDs? I used to love the Barnes and
Oh,
Noble
that was
CD
the best.
section.
Still
Do
have
they
one
still
as
have
well.
CDs?
What year do you think it is today,
I think that was
Cody?
the last one I was
No,
in.
I mean, it
Back
might
in my
be-
day, they had CDs at Barnes and Noble.
They don't anymore?
They might still actually.
I'm telling
Was that
you.
a ragtimey performer there?
Hello, my baby. Hello, my darling. Hello, my ragtime girl.
Nice, Stugotz. It was nice to see school buses today.
It was,
I
yes.
saw some school buses.
Says someone who doesn't have
Yeah.
to commute to
I was
work
gonna say,
via
speak for
car.
yourself.
Yeah, school zone is not exactly a good
Just
thing.
added an hour to my
Miss
commute.
summer, yeah.
Summer commute is great. I miss it so much.
Oh, it's the best.
I'm surprised Stugotz hasn't said something yet, and maybe this is in his weekend observations, which we will get to in a moment. But I'm just going to throw a name your way, and you will either know what happened this weekend or you will not. Joe Madden?
I do not.
This guy needs to get over himself.
What do you do now?
He was being interviewed by a Little League World Series kid, and he called him a coach, and he's like, I'm a manager.
Oh,
Don't call me a
God,
coach.
jeez.
Oh, no.
My
Oh, no.
goodness.
And
I mean, the
don't-
kid should know better.
And it's not like he was I don't think he was doing it as the bit. Like, it's kind of been a thing. It's been a talking
Oh, no,
point.
it was not a bit. It was
Right.
not a bit. He was asked what it's like to coach Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout, and he politely corrected the kid by saying, I don't coach, I manage. And I understand why all of you would have that reaction. That was scrubbed out of me in baseball in my early 20s, the first time I referred to Renee Latchman as coach, and he
Right.
corrected me.
But it's a kid. I mean,
I was a kid. I was very young. I was very young. I was in my early 20s, and the managers say they are managers, and it is offensive to them in baseball if you call them coach. The other first base guy might be coach, the third base guy might be coach, the bench guy might be coach.
well,
the
he is. He's
dugout.
the third base coach. That's what he is, right? Manager is a manager. I understand that unless a kid makes that mistake, and then you just let it go.
I'm just telling you that managers will correct that on you in baseball. All of them will correct it on you.
Did the kid reply and say, well, you didn't manage the pitching rotation at the end of Game 7 of the Cubs World Series very
Jesus.
well?
Oh, no.
No, the kid did not react with the soaked bitterness of a resentful Cubs fan. And
That won the World
They
Series.
won.
They needed that rain delay though. If not for that rain delay, they wouldn't have won that World Series. I will say
He's
though, like in Little League, your coach is coach. You call him coach all the time. Like for Joe Madden to have no sense of self-awareness to realize that at that level, they referred to their coach as coach. And instead, well, at my level, we refer to ourselves as manager. Like to put the standards upon the kid rather than himself is unbelievably strange.
Oh, no, this is a teaching moment. Joe Madden taught this kid.
No.
Once you grow up, if you do become a ball player,
He's
you
not a
know to call
grown-up
him a
yet.
skipper.
This kid's he was shamed on national TV.
Ridiculous.
I would like to think that Dusty Baker would let that slide, that Dave Roberts would let that slide. I do. Like the nice guys, you know? I mean, Madden's not one of them.
Roy is out here making the argument for there are no mistakes, kid, just learning.
Yeah. Yeah. Learning experience.
He'll never make that mistake again.
Never again.
It's the last.
Yeah, because he's emotionally scarred.
Exactly.
I hope he does make that. I hope he becomes rebellious in his later years. And every time he encounters a major league manager, calls him coach with some derision in his voice.
You're hoping for that to not be a teachable moment, not to be learning, but for him to just stubbornly become bitter and lash
Yes.
out at all authority for being
Yes.
Joe Madden stubborn about, you will call me manager. I'm not someone who coaches. I am someone who manages. I got to be honest, managing sounds a little like a demotion in the
Yeah.
face of coaching.
That's a
I'd rather
great
be
point.
a coach. Yeah.
Coaching sounds like something that is more leadership based. When I think of manager outside of baseball, I think of the guy lording over the grocery baggers at Publix. Like that's what I think of when I think of a middle manager.
See, what coach to me sounds like gritty, like they get in your face, like they spit a lot. They're like chewing baseball, or what are those things called? Sunflower
Tobacco?
seeds.
Oh.
They're chewing baseball.
Chewing
They are.
baseballs.
Dan
No, they
Campbell's
are. They're
literally chewing kneecaps.
baseballs. Yeah.
And a manager is like someone who's like approving your PTO and
Yes.
giving you a lunch break. And
I'm with you on that. I believe I've been confused for a long time, Stugotz, at how it is that we treat the skipper in baseball, who is a literal middle manager. He's below the front office.
Doesn't do anything.
He is the layer. It's not that he doesn't do anything, but he
Doesn't
is
do a lot.
he is the layer between the front office and the player. He is. It might. You know what? I believe that if we're going to be really accurate, we should call Joe Madden middle manager every time we see Joe Madden. We should refer to him not as manager, as all of these guys. We should refer to all of them as middle managers.
The worst use of the word middle, right, is calling someone a middle manager. Because you're taking some prestige off their title.
Middle child.
Oh,
Ooh, that's a tough
shout.
one. Yeah.
Good
Put,
shout.
put it on the poll, please, Roy. What is worse, being a middle child or being a middle manager? Which one do you go with at Batard Show? You were asking me about baseball, Stugotz, because I did watch some baseball this weekend, and one of the things happening in baseball that is weird and funny. Here come the Yankees again, because they have, Mike Schur pointed this out to me the other day, a lineup that is bigger than the offensive line of the 1972 Dolphins.
Get out of here.
The
Come on.
undefeated
Get outta here.
Get out of
Dolphins.
here.
Their lineup is all 250-pound guys. It's all,
I mean, how big was Larry Little?
Larry Little was one of the larger guys, but that offensive line was not what you think it is. The perfect Dolphin season. If you are go get me some measurements, I think you can make an argument that the Yankee lineup, the starting lineup with all these Joey Gallos and all of these guys, these Rizzos.
These Voights. Yeah, I see.
Larry
him.
Little was 6'1", 265 per Pro Football Reference.
And he was the big one. Larry
Yeah.
Little was the giant among them, and he was 265. You mentioned Voigt. They Rizzo has to sit for a game, and all they go and get is the guy who led the league in home runs last year.
Just the name Voigt sounds like that. There are no small Voights, correct?
Yeah, there aren't. No, and Voigt put his money where his mouth is, where he said, hey, I should be out there. I deserve to be out there just as much as Rizzo does. I was top 10 in MVP voting last year. That was a shock to me that guy finished top 10 in the MVP voting, but he went out the next day, went 4 or 5 and had a home run. I mean, Yankees are good.
Why was that a shock to you? He led the
Voigt?
league in home runs.
I don't know. You knew Voigt was a top 10 for MVP last year?
Generally a guy who leads. Did he have more than anybody in the sport last year? Did Voigt have more home runs than anybody hitting baseballs last year? Regardless, it was surprising to hear him say that flatly. I deserve to play just as much as Rizzo. But the thing that I was noticing, this is a bit unfathomable when you consider Stugotz, and it needs to be reported more by the mainstream media. Have you guys been watching over the course of this century what the Yankees have been doing to the poor Minnesota Twins? The Minnesota Twins have had a good baseball team in this run that I'm talking about since 2002, Stugotz.
Mm-hmm.
The Twins, when they're not playing the Yankees since 2002, have won more than they've lost. They're a plus 500 team when they're not playing the Yankees. However, they're 101, the Yankees are, and 37 against the Twins, including 15-2 in the postseason. If I threw a minor league team, I'm not even kidding you, Stugotz, if I threw a minor league team at the Yankees, I'd get something like that.
Something close to that. Yeah, maybe better.
101 and 37. The Yankees are only, by winning percentage when they're not playing the Twins, winning 56% of the games when they're not playing the Twins, but they play the Twins so crazy well. It doesn't even make any sense, Stugotz. They took 2 games from the Twins. The Twins were happy to get one of the games postponed this weekend.
The Twinkies. I gave you nothing there.
It's about time, actually. It took him about 3 minutes before he got the Twinkies.
Yeah, you're right. Voigt had 22 homers last year, but it was a shortened season. He did lead the league in homers last year. But still, I mean, Luke Voigt does not deserve to be a top 10 guy in the MVP voting. Not last year, this year, next year, or any year. I mean, how about
But
that?
just in general, it's just a rule you have about him.
Yeah, he's Luke Voigt. I mean,
What I love about it is I didn't know he was top 10. Therefore, he doesn't deserve to be top 10. If that's
And
not,
never
it's on
should.
me, not him.
no,
I mean,
it's it. Here, I'm this ignorant. I didn't know something. Therefore, he should not have the thing that I don't think he should have, even though I know nothing of what I'm talking about. And I just got this information. I learned it when Voigt was talking about Rizzo. And I don't know why you made all Voigts large, because the first Voigt I think of is John Voigt. And I don't think of large. I think of being spit up by an anaconda and winking at me when covered in fluid.
but there's a difference between Luke Voigt and John Voigt.
Agreed.
Every Luke Voigt is big.
Well,
A G.
but
The G is the difference.
I don't know, man. John Voight's he's pretty big.
He's wiry.
He's 6'2".
Yeah, 6'2".
He's tall but thin.
I want to say that. You seen him in Ray Donovan? Not then.
You would
Oh,
not
Now,
say.
now
you're
you're
naming
fat,
roles.
Now you're fat shaming John Voigt.
I am. He's a fat guy.
All right, so yeah, I don't know what you're doing there, but it's just a ridiculous take. That
I don't know either.
Thank you, Dan.
It's just a real big eagerness to get in and say John Voigt not thin.
Tony agrees with me. Potbelly.
And yet you've given me more this segment that Stugotz did with a proud Twinkies, and then immediate shame
Give you a hostess
about
treat.
how
Yeah,
lazy,
John Voigt had plenty of those.
about how lazy he is. Yeah, okay, so John Voigt, you're saying, has had plenty of Twinkies because he's got a pot belly. I'm with you, Jessica. I know. I don't understand what's happening here. I believe
He's
it's
saying
just,
John Voigt feast on the Twinkies just like the Yankees. I mean, that's it.
I understand what it is that he's saying, but again, John Voigt is wiry. No one has ever described John Voigt, no one ever, as thick, fat, anything other than thin.
I'm not sure if Roy is even thinking of the correct person, so we'll just move on.
The
I
actor,
guess.
John Voigt. I literally just said a role that he was in.
You did, but you seem to not see very well because you think that of John Voigt as fat, and it doesn't make any sense. There has never been.
He is fat, dude.
I'm with
I will
Roy.
die on this hill.
Yeah, I'm with Roy on this.
You're with Roy.
Well, especially in Ray Donovan. I will agree. Listen, I'm with you. He is skinny in general, but in Ray Donovan, wow, man.
Listen, Midnight Cowboy, yes, he was stout. He wasn't fat. He's fat now.
Put it on the poll, please, at Lebatard Show. Is John Voigt fat? At Lebatard Show.
I'm looking at a picture of him on set of Ray Donovan. I'm with Roy on this.
He looks great in this picture. You guys are crazy.
That belt is doing a lot of work.
That is not
No,
fat.
it's not. You guys are so weird. God, I'm so mad. Now I'm pissed.
Excuse me.
Put it on the
Jeez.
poll, Roy, at
You
Lebatard
cared about John this much. I mean,
Show. Is John Voigt's belt doing a lot of work at Lebatard Show?
I have a weird transition right now, but I just saw something on my TV and I am just blown away. Stephen A. Smith is hosting Jimmy Kimmel Live tonight. And
What?
That's it.
Wow.
And I'm just excited. I'm DVRing it.
like
This is
he's filling in for
Yes.
Jimmy Kimmel.
Yes.
Really?
Oh,
Like
that
monologue.
monologue.
I am gonna watch that. Oh my god.
Put it on the poll at Lebatard Show. There's no chance Stugotz is up at that
Tomorrow,
hour.
I mean.
Just no chance. 0% chance.
He'll catch a clip of it on Twitter, buddy.
Maybe if you guys bring it to him and put it in his face and then rub it in his face like you do a dog when it poops on a carpet. Maybe.
I like that not only is ESPN now putting Stephen A. Smith in all of their programming, ABC is like, we
great.
need Stephen A. We
So
need
great.
more Stephen A.
He should be the Bachelor.
Put it on
That
the
would be
poll.
my God.
It'd be great.
Oh, not even host, just be the Bachelor. That's what I'm talking about.
Put it on the poll, please, at Lebatard Show. Should Stephen A. Smith be on The Bachelor?
The Bachelor. On The Bachelor.
What is the correction you're making there?
The Bachelor. Not hosting it. The Bachelor. The actual Bachelor on The Bachelor. That's all. That's all I'm doing.
One who's handing out roses.
Yes. Yes.
This is brilliant. Do you think for his monologue, he's doing takes or jokes? Do you think Stephen A. thinks he's funny?
Yes. I think Stephen A. thinks he's good at everything that television requires.
He is funny though. I don't like.
But
It's not like
but in an unintentional way. He's not like he's not doing stand up.
He's funny when he's passionate, right? When he gets like really enthusiastic, he
That
becomes
that
funny.
monologue, that's a tough ask. That is a tough ask. The
Do you have a crowd at Jimmy Kimmel yet?
expectation of funny.
I think so. Yeah. I think he's back doing it live.
Those are different things. Those are different skill sets. I root for him, but I would not want the responsibility of the expectation
Oh
of
my
funny
God.
on a late night talk show and wouldn't want to do.
I don't think Jimmy Kimmel Live is ever actually live.
I think it's live to tape, is
Right.
it not?
Yeah,
live to
yeah,
tape is
yeah.
what I meant, meaning a live audience is
Oh,
what I
yeah.
Yeah,
meant.
all talk
Yes.
shows are live to tape.
It
On
used
late
to,
night.
Jimmy Kimmel, do people remember that Jimmy Kimmel Live used to have a full open bar until everyone got so drunk that they couldn't do it that way anymore? That was ambitious and is exactly how it should be. But God forbid late night television be rebellious that
But
way.
how did anyone think that was going to be a good idea? Live and alcohol?
It's the maker
Taped
of,
and alcohol is not even good, Dan.
the maker of the Man Show, though. Like he
But-
got that show based in part on just women bouncing on trampolines.
But how did Live Freedom go with alcohol with Amin Al Hassan? I mean, I guess it worked
Great.
out, but could have easily not worked out.
I think Dan on tequila is the best that he's been in months.
I am
Like as good as you've been was you after a few shots of tequila.
That is not the tequila. That is the live element of this that I miss so much, even though we are doing it right now, because the live element will make you slightly more alert.
Do you think Stephen A is going to be good at it? Like, do you think he has a shot at delivering that monologue in a way that's really funny? Because the bar is low, right? You're not expecting him to be that funny.
I don't think the bar
Well,
is
Stephen
low.
A.
Yeah,
I
but
mean-
you're saying what we expect versus what Jimmy Kimmel's audience, much of whom might not care about its sports, they expect funny. The expectation of funny, the difference between just about everyone else in performing and the stand-up comic is jumping over the bar of the expectation of funny. I am here because you are someone who's going to make me laugh. It is Joe Buck is exceptional at all things television, is legitimately funny, is really clever, and as soon as they put him on his own show on HBO in front of a traditional stand-up scenario, that didn't go very well for him.
Well, we got precedent with Quite Frankly, and you know how that went. Not too good.
Well, quite frankly, was still his show, and it was not a comedy show. It was just his show. All the shows right now are Stephen A. being Stephen A. This requires something of Stephen A. that he's not done, but I've got to tell you, I legitimately admire that he's willing to tackle soap operas, everything in television, that he's got the courage to think that he's good at everything.
I feel like it's going to come down to whether Kimmel's writers can write jokes for Stephen A. Smith and whether he can deliver them. And I'm excited to see what that's going to be.
I have an update on when Jimmy Kimmel Live was no longer live. This is from January of 2003. This is from the Los Angeles Times. ABC ushered in its new late-night franchise, Jimmy Kimmel Live, on Sunday night, and already the network is making a tweak. It's evidently doing away with the show's liquor license after an audience member vomited on her chair, apparently in close proximity to a high-ranking Disney executive.
Stugotz's weekend observations coming up here in a moment. Stugotz, I did want to tell you, though, something before we got started here. Larry Fitzgerald pretty quietly sort of retired this weekend. He might not be retired, but he was just talking to Jim Gray, and he said, I've got no feeling that I want to be out there for my, 18th season or 19th season, and one of the best to ever do it. I don't feel like that should be a quiet retirement. I think he's leaving the option open of catching some passes in the middle of the season for a contender.
I think he has no desire for training camp, and perhaps is leaving a little hope, maybe some desire to play once the regular season starts. And that team could be very good. So we'll see, you know.
Are you getting excited about all things football in a way that make you, like Chris Cody, excited for Monday night preseason football tonight? I believe that was the last Saturday we're going to have to experience for a while without college football, correct? College football in some forms is going to make an appearance, however diluted. Oh, look at Jessica.
Oh my God, I'm going to watch every minute of that stupid UConn game next weekend.
Is there a
so
James?
good.
There's always a James Madison game to start the season on a Thursday.
Yes.
Stugotz is betting on it.
I am. And tonight you have Jacksonville and New Orleans, and you have a quarterback. You know, you have Taysom Hill, you have Jameis Winston. There's a real quarterback competition going on there. I loved the preseason this week, and I love what they did on Saturday on NFL Network with a 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and 7 o'clock game. I felt like I was watching football. And this preseason really has more meaning than most because you're watching 5 quarterbacks to see how good they're going to be and if they have a chance at starting, you know?
I love that on Get Up moments ago, I saw the graphic. Matt Nagy reiterates that Andy Dalton is starting game 1. The reiterates is it's a funny verb and also the appropriate one. I'm sure Matt Nagy feels like he's fending off lions where he's like,
everyone's confused. I mean,
what are they confused by? They don't want to feed Justin Fields to Aaron Donald in game 1. So they're going to feed the ginger to him.
Should just say Matt Nagy doubles down on putting the less favored quarterback in week 1.
He was booed. He's been there 4 minutes. Andy Dalton was booed on principle. Andy Dalton, that's not any quarterback that would be booed there. It's only that one.
it was also 34-6. I mean,
because Andy Dalton is their quarterback and because the coach is out there feeling the need to reiterate. I wish he'd just say it like that. You know what? I don't want to. Did you see how Fields was hit this weekend? I don't want him to be enveloped by the navel of Aaron Donald. I would like to wait to week 2 before I throw him to that.
did you hear Fields after the game saying, hit didn't hurt? Then they asked him about game speed. He said, a little slower than I expected. That guy. Oh, boy.
That's some cockiness right there.
Yes.
Game speed. Everyone's telling me about this NFL game speed. A little slow for me.
No, he said that after the first game, and then he got rocked in the second game.
Yeah, but he said it didn't hurt.
He's also playing against backups, right? Like, it was the second quarter against the Dolphins, right? Like, guy number 61 on the roster is not going to be there in 2
Say
weeks.
it. He doesn't have
The
the
dude
goods.
got like 8 ribs knocked out in the national championship game. It probably didn't hurt that bad
Good
compared
point.
to when his spleen was like bleeding out during the Alabama game.
I still think it was unethical for him to play in that game.
See, I differ here with you on
It
Matt
was
Nagy.
amazing.
I'd like to hear Matt Nagy come out and say, hey, I boxed myself into a corner. I promised Andy Dalton he's going to start. I know he shouldn't start, but I got to start him. That's what I'd like to hear.
And the reward for me making this right is here, Aaron Donald. Would you like to dine on a buffet of ginger?
I just don't understand these coaches that do this every preseason. Like, the Chargers coach, Anthony Lynn, got a let off because his medical staff put a needle in Tyrod Taylor's lungs. But why were they wasting time with Tyrod Taylor when Justin Herbert was probably doing what he did in games on the practice field? Just throw them out there. Like, fans always want to see the rookie quarterback, and it's never the right decision to stick with the veteran. The veteran never leads the team to a 14-3 season.
Wait.
It's never the right decision.
But the Chiefs sat Pat Mahomes his rookie year, and I heard Louis Riddick say this on a podcast last week. Andy Reid, front office, everyone was watching what Pat Mahomes was doing in practice. They wanted to play him, but they knew if he waited a year, he'd be better his second year because the biggest growth you make as an NFL player is in between year 1 and year 2. So it does work out. They had the long game in mind.
You don't think if Patrick Mahomes started against the Titans in round 1 that they would have had a better chance in starting Alex Smith? Like, if you're seeing what you're seeing, which is our young quarterback with an incredible ceiling, is playing well in practice, is playing well in preseason, why are you bothering with the guy that is obviously worse?
But you're saying it's never worked out. I think that team was 12-4. You might be right about the playoffs and Patrick Mahomes, but I think that team was 12-4 with Alex Smith throwing 5 yards per pass.
And they won the Super Bowl like the next year.
Yes.
I get what Whitty's saying here. Nagy needs to walk around. He's saying it, but he's not saying it to the team doctors. Needle him.
In the lung.
Give him a little something. Make this easy for me. Help me out here.
No.
No, you're saying it. I get it. I agree with you.
Just huge malpractice, unethical.
Little wink. You
yes.
walk by the doctors. You
Expose
give
us
a,
to lawsuits.
you give a
please.
little wink to the doctor. Just a little wink.
To your point, though, Whittingham, in terms of how much time we spend micro-analyzing this stuff and thinking we're right or we know more than the coach, one of the spots where no one was clamoring for the backup is when Bill Belichick was starting Drew Bledsoe. There was nobody saying, Tom Brady should play. This Tom Brady, it required Drew Bledsoe's lungs filling with blood.
6th-round pick, though, so it's,
I'm just saying how little we know about what it is that we're talking about when the guy at the top of the sport continues to play Drew Bledsoe and no one was clamoring for the guy who would then run 20 years of dominance unseen in the history of the sport. It seems like a pretty silly exercise for us to try and outguess any of these people, given that the top of the sport didn't know he should be starting Tom Brady.
That being said, the Bears front office and Matt Nagy, they're known for making bad decisions, so we can question them all we want.
I mean, the only case of they should have stuck with the veteran over the young guy is probably the Chargers with sending Drew Brees away to bring in Phillip Rivers. But Phillip Rivers still had an excellent career for them. So it ended up working out. But the case of keeping the veteran so you can delay the inevitable, I mean, maybe you could have made an argument that the Dolphins could have been better last season with Fitzpatrick for 16 games rather than Tua. But this waiting thing with journeyman veterans is the most bizarre thing that's done in the NFL.
So what do you do with the Niners? Because it appears that he's going to start Jimmy Garoppolo. He came out and said it, Kyle Shanahan, yet Trey Lance is clearly the better quarterback.
I don't know if he's a better quarterback right now. I think one of the things that these guys fear, Stugotz, is a rookie getting in there and just turning the ball over a lot, which is not what the veterans.
Because Andy Dalton doesn't do that.
That's not what the veterans. Fair enough, but it's not what the veteran quarterbacks who stay in the league tend to do. You just get. You saw the difference, but you can't deny, Stugotz, that you saw Fitzpatrick and Tua last year with the same personnel sets. And one of them looked like he was more advanced, and one of them told you afterward that he simply didn't know the playbook. And I understand why it is that coaches end up doing just the super safe thing when it comes to fearing turnovers, because they fear them so much. And I don't think it can be disputed that a guy who hasn't been there is more likely to do that, even unseen. You haven't seen it, but more likely to do it than a guy who has done it 100 times.
Yeah, it's about building up the confidence of your rookie quarterback, too, because it's their first season. And if they go out there and they throw 3 picks in the first game, and they're picks that they probably wouldn't have made had they had a year to study the playbook and understand what the defense is doing on the other side of the field, which is super important and something that a lot of college quarterbacks coming into the NFL need time to learn and understand. You have to be able to build up that confidence so that they don't just completely crumble by week 4 when everyone's pissed because you wasted your top 10 draft pick on a quarterback who keeps throwing picks.
In meager defense of what the Chicago Bears are doing, in the history of that sport, I cannot think of a single thing, Stugotz, that I want my quarterback starting against in game 1, then pressure up the middle from that dude. The history of the sport. What I don't want my rookie quarterback facing in his first game
is Aaron Donald.
Aaron Donald wrecking the middle of my offensive line and doing it early in a way that could rattle composure under the best of circumstances.
So come out and say it, because I think everyone would understand that explanation.
I'm scared of Aaron Donald.
You can't say that, Stugotz.
No. If you're Matt Nagy, I don't want my rookie quarterback having to face that guy his first game in the NFL.
But Andy Dalton, blood sacrifice. Get out there.
Yeah.
Time now for Stugotz's weekend observation.
It is time for Stugotz to share his game notes. No one in the media will tell you what happened better than my boy Stu.
Dan, he is a former 3-time WWE world heavyweight champion, and a former WWE champion. He was released by WWE in 2014 over a medical dispute after being away from the sport for 7 years, combined with an announcement on AEW show Rampage. Dan, make no mistake about it, CM Punk is back. You excited?
I was taken aback by what a huge story. I don't think there was a bigger story in sports this weekend.
There wasn't. That's why I led with it. Here's the second biggest. 20 of 28, 221 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Dan, don't look now, but Mitchell Trubisky is also back. A tutty. What are you shaking your head about? That's a great signing for the Buffalo Bills. They lose their quarterback, Josh Allen, for a couple of weeks, and Mitchell Trubisky is more than capable of coming in and winning a couple of games for the Bills. I like the Bills a lot. What do you think?
It's great that you get that out there now.
Thank you. You know what's not back? Based on that concert, New York. A weekly tradition, unlike any other. Angel Hernandez pissing everyone off. The only thing I'm saying about the Jets quarterback is I'm not saying a thing about the Jets quarterback.
Why not?
Not a peep.
Why not?
Ain't doing it. If you haven't met the next Wes Welker or Julian Edelman yet, please allow me to introduce you to New England Patriot wide receiver Gunnar Olszewski. The Pats. I have no idea if I said that right. Have you seen old Gunnar, though?
As close as you're going
boy.
to get. Olszewski, well done.
Thank you.
Gunner, I think, is the only reason that is one of the observations. You love a good gunner.
I do love a good Gunnar. You're right about that.
Anyone in sports named Gunner was going to make their way
I don't know
into
any
your...
of the Gunners.
And no, but if you spotted one anywhere in sports this weekend, they would have made the weekend observation.
You're right. Is it just me, or has it felt like one long, awful, dreadful day since Rudy Gobert tested positive? Report. A study over the weekend suggests that eating one hot dog takes 35 minutes off your life, except for the New York City Dirty Water Dogs. Those take 1 hour and 35 minutes off your life, and they are totally worth it. By the way, poor Joey Chestnut. Larry Fitzgerald said he feels no urge to play right now. Allow me to translate. Larry has no urge to show up to training camp. Larry, you sit on that beautiful ass for as long as you want. You've earned it. Headline: Steelers impressed with Najee Harris. Just once. I want to see a headline that says a team is not impressed with their first round pick. Report: Marc Gasol is not a lock to return to the Lakers this season. Well, that's good news for LA. Also, Mark, LeBron will make that decision, not you. Death, taxes, and a Friday night ramble on Rose by Dead and Company at Citi Field. Speaking of oh God, I'm upset right now. Speaking of Citi Field, Dan, the fucking Metropolitans.
What happened there, Stugotz? What happened? Not in.
I said Fitty, and I was thinking about F.
No.
50 Cent?
I meant what happened to your Mets. Because
DeGrom.
you were saying at every turn that the first half of the season.
Lindor has
my
been
Metropolitans, my
Yeah.
Metropolitans. Dan, are you checking all these weekend observations every week? It was my Metropolitans, my Metropolitans.
It was. They were 4.5 up on July 28th. I think they're 6 back now. They're out of it. Steve Cohen, the owner's upset. He's, tweeting everything out. Lindor says it's justified. They're a mess. I mean, DeGrom got hurt. Syndergaard never got healthy. And Lindor has been a complete bust. That's what happened to the Mets.
New York mess.
Hey, really upset about this, Dan. I thought we had a shot this year. Didn't you?
You guys keep making fun of me about the run differential, and I keep telling you pay attention to the run differential. It'll tell you how good a team actually is, and their run differential all season has been not that good.
Romelu Lukaku scored his first game for Chelsea. You know what he did, Dan? He hit the ground running. Big Rom.
Okay.
How about that? Did I say any of that correctly?
You did.
The B somewhere in Giannis Antetokounmpo stands for baseball.
There's no B.
Oh, really? That's unfortunate. Doesn't matter. I only said that so I could say this. The Brew Crew.
You think
There's no B in Giannis Antetokounmpo.
There
has
should
to
be.
Every
There should
letter in
be.
the alphabet's in that name,
There
except
should
for a
be.
B.
You're right.
I mean, I just guessed there.
Yes.
The way that he actually pronounces it, he says Adetokumbo. It's there's a B at the end, and the way that he pronounces it.
Oh,
there
I'm
you go.
back. How about that? Report. Dak will be ready for week 1, according to sources. I'm reporting the source was Jerry Jones. Report. The Big Ten eyes more than money with alliances. Give them whatever they want in exchange for Wisconsin never making the playoffs. You know what the F in field stands for, Dan? What happened there with Wisconsin? Everyone agrees on that
Everyone
one?
agrees.
Yeah.
I believe everyone agrees. Even Wisconsin right now is nodding and saying, you know what? Yeah, he's right.
You know what the F in field stands for, Dan?
I do not.
Flop. It feels like,
Wait a minute.
what do you mean? He wasn't that good. He wasn't that impressive. I mean, took a step back from week 1. You agree?
I feel like you've been arguing.
I said he was the best rookie quarterback I've ever seen. That was last week. This is this week. I mean, what have you done for me lately?
Okay. Fair
He
enough.
didn't play that well.
Okay.
And he ran well. He didn't throw well. You know?
Okay.
Did you watch the game? Or you
Stugotz,
watching Marlins Reds.
why are you accusing me of not watching the
It's
game
such a
when
fair
you have
point.
gone from he's the best quarterback I've ever seen
It's a
last
fair-
week
You're totally right.
to this preseason game? Now he's unimpressive.
Just covering my bases, Dano. It feels like there's an Alabama wide receiver on every NFL team.
Put it on the poll, Roy. Does it feel like there's an Alabama wide receiver on every NFL team?
The Todd. The only thing that's played at Citi Field that has shown any signs of life over the last month is a band called the Grateful Dead, whose lead singer is 73. Teddy Bridgewater.
What does that mean? Oh, that's different. Oh, it's all three of them are different. You can't even make the same sound.
Teddy Bridgewater.
What was he? 13 of 14 for like?
He was,
Okay, 13 of 14 for. Okay, very good. He was. Put it on the poll, Roy, please. Was Teddy Bridgewater 13 for 14 this weekend with
Ben Roethlisberger. Huh?
Jessica agrees.
Yeah. Mike Glennon and Devontae Booker are on the Giants. Case Keenum is a Brown.
This is going to be fun.
Giovanni Bernard is a Buck.
Is he really?
He is. He is a Buck. It's amazing. The rich get richer.
How did he
Did
end
they?
up? How did he? That's a good. The rich get richer. Did they?
Put that on the bowl.
Did they or did they not? You're not sure. They added Giovanni Bernard, and you're like, I don't know if they. You know what? Their bank account stayed exactly the same. They put it in a money market, no risk, and it was just. It wasn't even interest. It was just they were rich, and there were no risk, no reward. Just they stayed the same.
Matt Barkley, Titans. AJ McCarron, Falcons. Tyrod Taylor is a Texan. So are Mark Ingram and Rex Burkhead. Oh my God.
That was an avalanche right there. Of all of us were like, really? Okay, fascinating.
Kalen Ballage, a Steeler. When did that happen?
This is the part. This is where some people, these are not, any of these are no fantasy players, correct? None of them are people, like this is the way people keep track these days.
Giovanni Bernard has been on everyone's fantasy team at some point.
Yeah. Tyrod Taylor, maybe, if he's the Texans starting quarterback, right? And, of course, Teddy Bridgewater.
Of course.
Right. We don't know yet. Could be Drew Lock. Dan, and yet another reminder that we are getting old. Bill Parcells turned 80 over the weekend.
Holy shit.
The big tuna. The big 8-0.
Whoa.
I know.
That one caught me legitimately off guard. 80 years old.
He turned Bo.
Bill, you are what your age says you are. Imagine watching all day or waiting all day. Imagine waiting all day is what I was trying to say. I said watching, I meant waiting. Imagine waiting all day in the blazing hot sun to see Journey and Barry Manilow.
So that demo, the demo that's showing up there for Journey and the Filipino lead singer from a karaoke bar who has replaced Steve Perry, that demo cannot be a young one.
The lightning was God's way of getting Barry Manilow off the stage. I didn't forget yours, Whitty. And I don't mind saying it's yours.
They're your observations.
Well,
what are you talking about?
You helped me shape this one. Marcellus Dimitri Payet getting into a fight with the opposition supporters, who you could say weren't being so nice.
Of course, that was witty.
You get it? Because the team is
I don't. I just
it's called
read it.
Nice, but it's spelled nice.
I thought
And
for
they-
sure
and
that
they threw water
Stugotz
bottles
would
at the
pronounce
player.
it nice. I thought for sure he would pronounce
You
it
also
nice.
got I literally spelled it Nice like a relative on the sheet so he'd say it correctly. Also, it's Marseilles.
Whatever. Connecticut is so boring, even a hurricane will change its course to avoid it. Stolen joke, I gotta be honest.
Where was it stolen from?
Someone on Twitter. Right?
You can't just steal jokes, Stugotz. You have to. You can't steal
It's
jokes.
from Mikey A. Give him some credit. I think. Dan, you know what the I in Henri stands for?
No.
I don't know why they didn't just call the Hurricane Henry.
You have a stroke there?
I did. I get tired towards the end of these, Roy.
You nailed that one, Stugotz.
I don't know why they just didn't call the Hurricane Henry.
I get tired toward the end of these.
Yeah, I do. It's a lot. Listen, it's a heavy lift.
I much prefer Henri.
It's a heavy.
I hate Henri. Get out of here.
It's a heavy lift to have Whittingham, Shape, and Mikey A stolen jokes in your weekend observations.
The reading part of it.
He's got a point though. Why are we naming hurricane something you have to pronounce with an accent like Henri? You sound,
delightful.
but like I'm calling people in New York.
best
I'm like,
part.
hey, like how bad is Henri? Like it just sounds like I'm trying
My
so
dad got
hard.
mad at me. He said, please call it Henry. He did.
It's the best part when
best
Bruce
part?
Whittingham.
And it's even better when they get it when there's so many hurricanes to get into the Greek letters. It's Hurricane Omega. Oh, fantastic.
And it's also, it makes you feel safer. It makes, if it's Henri, he's going to be delicate when
Henry
he takes
is more
Classier
menacing.
hurricane.
when he takes the roof on your house, he's just going to peel it right off very gently as opposed to being,
Henri.
yeah, I'm Henri. I'm just here to destroy your life in a really soft, sweet French fashion.
It reminds me of the time that Hurricane Joaquin was heading towards South Carolina, and I was there for a football game, and all my friends there were calling it Joe Quinn.
Oh God.
What's wrong with that? The Marlins traded away 500 home runs for Burke Badenhop, the Hopper. And almost 3,000 hits. Worst trade ever.
It was not a good, and that was the best part of it. Badenhop, the middle reliever, was the big win in that trade for the Marlins. And you mentioned Badenhop.
Yes.
Badenhop gave them about 90 good middle relief innings.
Only people in South Florida know who Burke Badenhop is, right? We're the only people who find this funny.
Again. Well, let us explain it to America now. The guy who's got 500 home runs and is 43 hits away from 3,000 and has a triple crown was traded for an assortment of players, the best of whom was Burke Badenhop. It's worse. It is worse. What do you mean it's not true?
I
Cameron,
think it's Andrew
I mean,
Miller.
Andrew Miller
Yeah.
and Cameron Maben both
Okay,
had better
but,
careers.
fine.
It's a good name, though.
Okay, fair
the
enough.
Padres.
But for the Marlins, the Badenhop,
Marlins career,
yes,
you're right.
you are correct that Andrew Miller and Cameron Maben has had a long
He's
career.
still pinch running for
He's-
somebody.
Put it on the poll.
I think the Mets.
Put it on the poll, Roy. Is Cameron Maben still pinch running for somebody?
Andrew Miller was the Red Sox, right?
Yeah, he was very good for the Red Sox. Again, though, here he was not any good.
He was a disaster here.
And there, Cabrera just hit his 500th home run.
Jamar Chase, never good when a wide receiver leaves his house for a game and forgets his hands. The Z in Zach stands for zip.
I thought you said you weren't going to say anything.
I was talking about Zach Wheeler. Wheels up. The Hell in a Bucket to open tonight's show in Bethel, New York is going to be epic. Speaking of hell, Art Briles. Dan, those are the weekend observations.
I will get to that snake Mike Richards in a second. But I got a couple of sports things in Stugotz's wheelhouse. I don't know if he knows about either of them. They would have been in the weekend observations, I feel like, if he did know about them. Did you hear what Kemba Walker said, Stugotz, about your New York Knicks? It is the most Knicks of off seasons. Are you typing to find it? Are you just typing
I'm just typing, Dan. That's what I do.
Okay, well, we're doing a show here. Can you
I know.
stop
He's typing
for-
Kemba Walker into Google. Is what
for
he's
a
typing.
I was
second?
actually typing Mike Richards.
Okay. Do you know who Mike Richards is, or you don't know who Mike Richards
Something
is?
to do with Jeopardy, I feel like, perhaps. I don't
Is
know.
it on his screen, Whittingham? Can you
There-
look up and see if it's on his screen? Because those fat fingers were moving pretty fast right there.
That
and I didn't-
Pfizer vaccine in Google right now.
I'm trying to
To the news, but
well, I'm trying to see if it got approved today by the FDA. That's
It
why.
did.
Okay.
I thought you were looking up Cam Newton and him being in the wrong protocol, possibly, and being unvaccinated and now missing, I don't know how many days.
He's out 5 days. He's out till Thursday. He tested positive for COVID. So he said there was a misunderstanding. And I'm wondering, how could there be a misunderstanding at this point?
Did you see what Kemba Walker? It's very Knicks, right? That Evan Fournier and Kemba Walker are their big moves. They have hurt you for, and then they traded Fournier, right? Did they not, or did they keep him?
He's back. They have him.
Do you know at all, or do you not know?
Fournier is a New York Knick.
Okay,
Yeah.
and Kemba Walker, do you know what he said, or do you not know what
I
he
have
said?
no idea what he said. You're throwing a lot at me.
He said, quote, according to Mark Berman of the New York Post, that, and this was at his introductory Garden press conference, that it was pretty close that him and Durant came to the Knicks.
Oh, wow.
And I feel like that's something that Kemba Walker thought was pretty close and Kevin Durant didn't think was pretty close.
Things that Kemba think are close are not nearly as close to
'cause
Kevin Durant.
he ended up choosing someone better
He's the piece that could have gotten
than
Kevin Durant.
Kemba Walker in Brooklyn.
I just want to clean up something Stugotz said because he said Cam Newton has COVID. He does not have COVID.
Oh.
He has to re-enter the team because he traveled away from the team facility for a medical appointment, and because he's not vaccinated, he has to re-enter a testing regimen that will have him out 5 days.
Got it.
Just before anyone thinks that Cam Newton has COVID,
No.
he does not.
Thank you for doing that. My apologies to Cam.
We were throwing a lot at him, as he said.
Yes.
And it was all brought on by his fat fingers moving to look up
Mike
COVID,
Richards.
Mike Richards, Kemba Walker. We didn't know which thing that he was trying to hurry up and get caught up on, but we knew it was something.
Remarkably, it was Pfizer.
To get back to what you were discussing, though, do the New York Knicks lead the league in almost super teams? Because I feel like every offseason, some superstar almost went to the Knicks.
Oh, they always think they're in the game because they're Mecca, and they haven't been in the game for 20 years in that regard. The only time they were in the game is when they traded everything to get Melo, and then Melo got there and didn't have anything.
Right.
And so they never won anything.
I feel like, as well, there's a lot of revisionist history going on. I watched this morning that whole Kevin Durant, Draymond Green interview. I know you discussed it last week, but Kevin Durant's version of events is very friendly to Kevin Durant, as it would be. But I don't think, I left because of how Bob Myers and Steve Kerr handled that. That's not, all the reporting suggests that Kevin Durant was on his way out the door very clearly in the final year of that season. And Draymond Green was looking for a way to not blame himself for it, but that's not what happened.
That's all it felt like to me with Draymond Green from his standpoint. Hey, just so we're clear, it wasn't me.
Yeah, clear my conscience, please.
Right.
I really do find fascinating, and I will be curious to see how the audience ends up feeling about valuing truth as told by impartial people as you get this fractured thing in new media where Kevin Durant doesn't need anybody to tell his story, doesn't need a person, doesn't need to grant an interview to tell his story. He can control it by getting into deals with ESPN. He can control it by having his own production company. He can control it by by ripping again and again. It's not just Stugotz that Kevin Durant is telling his own story his way. He's going out of his way to knock at the credibility of the other people who have gotten to tell his story. The Jackie McMullins, as she retires from ESPN, or Ethan Strauss. He goes after these people with his version of the truth as if it's the truth. And I don't know how many yes men surround him. I do know that he's got an enormous economy around him. And part of that economy is dedicated to media manipulation, to telling his story his way without filters. And it will be fascinating to watch over the next 15 years as these guys more and more realize that they do not need any of these media partnerships that the league insists they have when you reach the level of Kevin Durant. The league insists that he do a certain amount of media accessibility. But when you've got your microphones, your platforms, you saw it, I don't know if you saw it, Damian Lillard landed on YouTube with a rap song this weekend, a rap video, bang, 300,000 YouTube followers, because these guys, for years, we've been hearing about brand management. We've been hearing about the independents. And in that sport, more than any of the others, these guys have a legitimate power over their own brand, each of them a little economy in the streaming age as everyone's fighting for content. And I'd prefer, Stugotz, to see Kevin Durant chronicled honestly the way he was in Matt Sullivan's book, where he's not making the determination on things that are friendly, versions that are friendly to Kevin Durant, where somebody more impartial can make those observations. It more closely resembles the truth to me.
I'd prefer Sullivan's book as well, Dan, but I'm okay. I can handle both. Like, I want Kevin Durant's story of himself as well. Like, I want that. So I crave that. I think that's going to be fascinating. It might not be the entire truth, okay, but it's going to be Kevin Durant's version of his own life and his own career, and I'm good with that.
The part that I find most interesting is that Kevin Durant and people like him do not have to grant an access to others in order to get their story out anymore.
I actually find interesting that I do actually think that these big stars recognize the need to affiliate themselves with big media companies, because LeBron James can do the shop on Uninterrupted. But it's only a big deal if it's on HBO Max and it's on HBO. He does the shop for HBO. Kevin Durant's show, The Boardroom, is a created show for himself, but it's on ESPN Plus. He does need ESPN. The difference is he's not working with journalists. He's working with executives, right? He wants to be in the room where the decisions get made, and so that's the layer that's getting skipped. There's a recognition that you need to be on big media platforms. It's just you're doing the deals with different people.
Oh, I guess what I should have said is that what you're now entering, because yes, you do need some of the media platforms, but it used to be that those media platforms
Had gatekeepers.
What not just, well, hold on a second. It would be that those media platforms would interview you and you would get not $1 for that. You weren't partners with those media entities. They were simply siphoning off of you, and they were doing so for free. These guys have now taken that access and monetized it. The only thing they need about the credibility of the media platform is the business partnership that allows them to control the content in a way that isn't impartial and doesn't have to be impartial, because the media partners want the content. The media partners want, do you know how many people want whatever Kevin Durant is saying into a microphone? No matter how he,
regardless of what it is,
no matter how he presents it, no matter how he wants to present it, Kevin Durant would have bidders suiting up. They'd be lining up in order to fight each other to get this content as the Manning brothers make their way over to ESPN Plus, as these documentary companies fight over where can we get a 6-part series of something. Give us access that no one else has so that we can get a handful of people to pay for ESPN Plus because they need to get in there in order to see their Kevin Durant, because they're Nets fans, because they care about this recent poll, Stugotz, that I also think is the other thing that is your wheelhouse, where Kevin Durant and Antetokounmpo are receiving the most votes here. You love these things. As ESPN's Tim Bontemps, he reached out to 10 scouts and executives and polled them on who the best player in the sport was. And Kevin Durant and Antetokounmpo each received 5 votes.
Where's LeBron?
It's never happened before. 50-50.
He's upset. LeBron is upset.
Is he really?
Hashtag super washed from his Twitter account. Trash emoji.
I love it.
And
I love at this point in his career, he's still getting upset about these things. I mean, it's 10 random people. I mean,
here is thank you, exclamation point. All the letters in thank you capitalized, as if I didn't need more to, and then gas tank emoji.
Goosebumps.
Hashtag washed. king crown emoji. Your trash talk is not it is diluted by the emoji. Can we
He's such
agree
a
about
dad
that?
now.
He really is.
He's doing like a dad's version of trash talk.
Hashtag washed. Chris Cody, can you just please find for me? Just go on a quick journey through hashtag washed and see what it is that you uncover beyond LeBron James.
To get back to what you're talking about though with Kevin Durant, the other thing that is the appeal of these athlete to athlete interviews is that you feel like you're getting a more honest version because the veil of giving an interview goes down and it's just too like
But you're
Draymond.
not.
Well, that's the thing,
You're
right?
getting their version.
But it's not only that, it's their version, but also you're not talking to a person who's done interviewing his whole life and can press you on the kind of holes in your story, right? Draymond Green should have gone, hang on a second. Called you the B word in a locker room in front of everyone.
How did I have nothing to do with
and
this?
wouldn't apologize for it, and it's Steve Kerr's fault for making me or asking me to apologize. They bleep this whole thing up.
Right. And so Kevin Durant, and they'll go, oh, we agree. Oh, so you and me, we're on the same side of things. And we move on, and and it feels honest because you see Kevin Durant, his posture, his manner of speaking is different than if it was a televised interview with Rachel Nichols, because these are peers
That's so
talking
funny,
to each
but
other.
that's
But it's
why-
the appearance of candor.
It is dishonest honesty, and it will be interesting to watch in an America that we have watched can argue about the silliest and the smallest of things. How many of the viewers will be discerning about these partnerships and about this fake candor and the illusion of access that the media companies have been milking for a long time, Stugotz? These sideline interviews with coaches that none of the coaches want to do and that the sideline reporters don't actually want to do. They are negotiated into the contract for it to look like the illusion of we've got this game locked. We are covering this game, and they will protect these guys on Wired for sound. And it is a version that is the illusion of access, and it is a partial honesty that seems honest because everything around it is mythology-soaked dishonesty. So it feels like something that's real, but it's not actually truth. It's just slightly less of a lie than what you're used to consuming that doesn't have the access.
And the couple of times it has led to real honesty, it's caused problems. Sam Darnold saying he was seeing ghosts against the Patriots basically ruined his Jets career. And then Steve Kerr was also mad when, while talking to Kevin Durant, he was referencing a Bulls-related experience that he had and was talking to Kevin Durant and was reportedly very upset that ESPN or TNT ran that as legitimate access of a conversation that Steve Kerr and Kevin Durant. Apparently the Warriors were fuming about this. So anytime we get real access, the teams hate it.
I think it was Adam Gase that ruined Sam Darnold's Jets
point.
career. Yes.
Good point.
So I looked up hashtag washed. Outside of the LeBron stuff, there's a lot of Roger Federer stuff going on, hashtag washed.
Mm-hmm.
Also a lot of mid-30s day drinking. Went day drinking in bed before 5:30, hashtag washed. And they are right. This day drinking tough, man.
Oh, it is
I
tough.
used
You
to
got to
love
keep
it.
drinking. Yeah.
Stugotz is such a one-trick pony on this. He's only got what we
That's
know.
it.
We know what your advice is on this. Just keep drinking. Don't go to sleep. Just keep drinking.
Well, Smetty agrees with me. If you make the mistake of opening up a drink, okay, at 2 p.m, Dan, the rule, if you stop for 5 minutes, you will fall asleep.
Yeah, but you act like
Spot on.
if you keep going, you just feel great. No, if you keep going at 9 p.m., you feel like absolute shit.
You don't stop at 9 p.m. You
So at
stop
9
when you go to
p.m.
bed, and then you wake up the next morning and feel like shit.
I was walking downstairs. You just mentioned day drinking, and this is the logic pattern because I just imagined cans for some reason, and I don't know if you were jarred by this or are jarred by this, but I'm jarred by it every time, and I don't know what's happening here to me. I was walking downstairs, and I saw a dude with a can of Gatorade, and it looked wrong to me.
Yeah, that's jarring. Yeah.
Who drinks?
Just the thought of
I
it.
can't imagine that Gatorade in a can does well.
Oh, it's so
Delightful.
good. It's
Delightful.
so good.
I'm picturing it in like a hospital vending machine.
It's
No,
very
but
refreshing.
My high school cafeteria only served canned
What?
Gatorade. Cold canned Gatorade is
You
elite.
just smell the
Yep.
aluminum the whole time.
Fantastic.
This is, I don't believe we've ever had a disagreement this polarizing around here because we don't know now. Chris Stugotz and I are speaking from ignorance because I would not drink on principle. I would not drink Gatorade from a can. I would not do it because it just looks wrong
Sounds
to
terrible.
me. But Jessica and Whittingham just called it elite, and Jessica is judging our ignorance right now, as if we just ingested too much horse dewormer.
I've never even seen Gatorade in a can, to be honest with you.
It's the can, and then it's the one that you get at the gas station with the little nipple top. Those are the
Ooh.
best Gatorades. The dark blue one, oh my
Oh, the
God.
dark blue is the best, but out of a plastic bottle.
So let me ask you a question. Soda, better out of a bottle or a can?
So this is
On
an
ice.
interesting one.
Fountain.
Yeah, fountain soda, fountain
course,
Coke is the
top.
best drink of all time. Mountain Dew is better out of a can than it is out of a bottle. It sounds crazy, but Sunkist is better out of a bottle than it is a
Completely
can.
disagree. I think
Okay.
Sunkist is way better out of a can, and a can of Coke way better than a bottle of Coke. Plastic does not interact with drinks as well as aluminum cans do. It just doesn't.
I mean, can't we just all have our opinions on this? Like, there's a right and wrong answer with this?
No, it's what are we talking about?
This show wouldn't exist if we were just like,
Sports
oh,
radio wouldn't exist.
I respect your opinion. Let's move on.
The part that is problematic is there are two people who are informed here and three who have never done it because they wouldn't do it.
I
Because
thought you were saying me and you just because we're fat, we're informed. That's where I thought you were going.
we do like sugar. You would think that anything sugar with a can, in a bottle, anything sprinkled on dog poop, anything with sugar is something that you and I would have a bias toward. But again, these two people who have actually done it are raving about it. And the three of us who are just finding it blasphemous, it does look wrong. Well, you guys you can't dispute that.
It looks wrong. It looks like it would taste differently to me. It does. Like out
There's
of a can.
something
I
about
need to see it.
Gatorade and metallic and sugar. None of this feels right to me. It feels not necessarily unethical or immoral, but just simply wrong.
Yeah, it just seems like the Gatorade would then taste metallic because it also has like the packaging is very metallic looking as well. It doesn't look appetizing with its packaging. It is against all odds delicious. But I'm telling you, the first time I saw it in the cafeteria, I'm like, this is going to be awful. I'm like, this is great.
But wouldn't you expect pop to be metallic then? Because that's in a can too. Pop.
This is a Northeast thing, is it not?
It's a Midwest thing, but it's the correct thing. To
We all
me.
objected to pop, though, and
It's
there are people
pop.
who would say pop, and then there are not. It's this is regional,
Much more
absolutely.
regional.
what I call my
Much
grandpa.
more regional.
That's what I call the coach of the Spurs.
What are you giggling about, Stugotz? Before we came on, before the microphones came on, all I heard from you through giggle snorts was something Jackie McMullen. What are you giggling about?
You mentioned her, Jackie Mack. She retired. She had a long, great career at ESPN. And I did Around the Horn with her, and I became very good friends. And I haven't sent her a text since she retired. And so I wrote down a reminder to myself.
Very good friends, Stugotz.
A very good friend. Yeah, I would call Jackie Mack a very good friend of mine. I would. I spoke to her once. It was a great conversation.
He would call everybody his very good friend. He is Kemba Walker in all of these relationships. Yeah, we were pretty close. We're close. And then you ask that person about him, and it's Kevin Durant through a haze of weed telling you, I went to Brooklyn with Kyrie Irving.
We've exchanged exactly 3 texts in the entire time we've known each other.
Is that a fine on Dan for his phone ringing?
It is a fine.
Is $10.
Yes, it is. It's a $5 fine, I believe.
And these text exchanges that you've had have just all been you asking her for stuff.
Pretty much, yeah.
Would you do stupidity? Would you do stupidity?
How
instead
many
of me?
requests for stupidity?
None yet, but since she's retired, that's why I was writing her name down on an index card so I could ask her to make an appearance on Stupidity to relive her magical career. My friend, Jackie Mack. I mean, it would be great. I'll text her right now.
Let's get to this snake, Mike Richards. Why is he the worst, Chris?
Just because he is. I mean, what do you mean? What kind of question is that?
I just saw you were pantomiming with fingers pinched and not, you were disgusted by
I
him.
just wanted to say Jackie Mack. Like, that's really all we were doing here.
You were talking about me, not Mike Richards. That's unfortunate.
I think this Mike Richards story has captured the nation because this is an interesting thing from start to finish. This show is an American bedrock from another time, one of the biggest success stories in the history of television, a show with this popularity and this kind of adoration for a host who we got to watch, Stugotz, in as graceful a way as something this dark and difficult can be. We got to watch Alex Trebek age and then die with people caring about things that he has learned, people reading about how he got perspective. He got the pancreatic cancer is the worst and the most ravaging. It is a death sentence. He came back to do shows. He came back to really have the punctuation that anyone in entertainment and aging would want, where people cared about him and his show. Replacing him is going to be very difficult.
He was in your living room or your den for decades, every
across
single night.
generations, in something that we all sort of enjoyed, which is, oh, look how dumb I am. I am not as smart as these brilliant people, and I try, and look at how good they are at this game.
And the remarkable thing is, despite the fact that he had pancreatic cancer and reportedly struggled to stand up during tapings, the last episodes of Alex Trebek were not sad. They were not a guy deteriorating on your screen or looking bad from chemotherapy. He looked like Alex Trebek. He performed like Alex Trebek to the very end.
This is a bit of an American sacred cathedral in a landscape on television that has been altered in a
syndicated television.
It's just crazy. Across generations, this game show host, one of the best ever, if not the best ever, made for an attachment between America and its television set. I don't know, after dinner, family time, whatever the connection is, it's an antiquated one, and this was a sacred space. And then Mike Richards comes along, and he is a television producer for a couple of years. He is an outsider. I don't know how much worse all of this could have gone in terms of transition than the way that it went, which is not only does this guy sort of labyrinth snake produce his way into a really coveted spot that a lot of people were competing over. Aaron Rodgers wanted it. I feel like an idiot for not asking Aaron Rodgers that if he had gotten Jeopardy, would he have actually retired?
Well, it's available now. I mean, maybe he wants it still.
That was on the Chiron for Get Up this morning. It said, Jeopardy looking for host. Oh, is that what happened?
Mike Richards, I don't know whether he conducts a search or is part of conducting a search or is just Stugotz. And this is very 2021, right? You get into the right rooms where the power is, and the power tends to be white and male. And you too might be able to, and something that a lot of people want, make your way through just knowing people into somehow becoming the host of this cathedral of television. And then people start digging through his past, and some of the things that you find that would make someone resign a post end up making an appearance, and he steps down. And you know I'm not canceled, guys. Stugotz. I'm not the guy running around here saying that every mistake, and there's narcissism in this. I don't want to have my career defined by a mistake. I don't want my career defined by a bad sentence or something that I did in the past. I don't want 30 years or 25 years of work to be erased because something doesn't have the context and because that's how we're doing it now. So maybe it's an unreasonable fear for me to have, but I just don't like how quickly everything can vanish because that's where we are today, and we can chase someone down for things that are in their past that are wrong. But what he did was wrong. And the fact that he was able to keep the executive producer job, it made me think that he was told, hey, if you resign, we'll let you keep this job. But I found fairly amazing that he was able to keep any kind of job, given that this transition has been an unholy mess. The thing I wanted to ask you, though, is and this is not to be politically correct, I'm genuinely curious whether a game show host can be a woman, because I didn't feel like there was the possibility at any point of any of the people being chosen from there to be a woman. And I'm wondering if in 2021, it's simply that when you think of a game show host throughout the history of time, it's always a man. So it's going to be a man. And I'm not even saying it should have been a woman. I'm just asking you, do you have the capacity to think of your game show host as a woman? Because forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think Who Wants to Be a Millionaire transitioned from Regis Philbin
to Meredith Vieira, I believe, yes.
And by the way, Jeopardy announced 2 hosts for Jeopardy. Mike Richards was going to host the Daily Edition, and there was a second host that was for primetime specials. Her name is Mayim Bialik, who was a co-star of The Big Bang Theory and was actually put up for the job, and also was kind of prosecuted, as it were, for problematic comments in her past as well. They really got this wrong, didn't they?
I mean, my question to you is simply, how do you it's almost impossible in any way to transition from Trebek. Like, how the hell is Wheel of Fortune going to transition from Pat and Vanna? How is that going to happen? But they've learned the lessons from this, because this right here is about the worst way that you can do it.
Well, it's about the game, right? Ultimately, it's about the game. You still love the game. Like, it was Richard Dawson for Family Feud, and now it's Steve Harvey, but you still watch the game, you know?
And Price is Right. Drew Carey has kept that afloat, but this is the way to not keep it afloat. Like, there are only a handful of ways that you could have brought a mess, and this is one of them. There aren't that many, Stugotz, you tell me how this could have gone any more poorly than the way it went. If you were writing fiction, you got a guy who no one's heard of him before this. No one knew who he was, who seems to have made his way through the corridors of power to get a position and now you're reading some details, Stugotz. Like, I'd understand. He rubbed some people the wrong way, because now all of a sudden you've got the world's reporters grabbing Jeopardy information. This is the last thing that you want. You don't want them asking around, hey, any other weird stuff? Hey, what's the weird shit on Richards? And then they tell you, hey, he made Ken Jennings sit in a closet during the first taping because he disrespected Ken Jennings' royalty.
No, so the details, Claire McNear of The Ringer, who wrote a book about Jeopardy, has done a tremendous reporting here. This is what Michael Richards did during the process. He remained the executive producer. He claims that he stepped aside from the search process so that it could be fair and impartial. Here's what he did. He remained the executive producer, was in the ears of all of the other temporary hosts, giving them advice on what they should be doing. And, oh, you're being too stilted, you need to lighten up, whatever. So he's the one in charge of giving them advice. And then they focus grouped every single temporary host. And you know who was responsible for showing those focus groups the clips that they saw? Mike Richards.
It's amazing.
He rigged the entire process. And at the end of it, looked in the mirror and goes, me, I'm the one who's the right one for the job.
You think he was giving bad advice to them?
100%.
Of course he was. He's me.
Aaron, be stiffer. Just, I need you to be more dry cleaned, more starched, less human, more robot.
Also, the Jeopardy hive is so much more powerful than I think he ever could have estimated. The amount of people who care so deeply and passionately about Jeopardy is astonishing, even to me. And I'm a very online person, but this online group of Jeopardy stans, they care so much about this. You cannot cross them.
Stugotz, I think what you see happening, and I can't believe how quickly Tony Khan has done this, but in the WWE, we've talked about this before. It's a fascinating fight at the height of wrestling over the business. Fascinating what is happening. WWE is making a lot of very good business moves that the people who love that sport across generations in wrestling, because what's happening here, Stugotz, you see the business sort of shaking. Vince McMahon has run it for a long time. He has known what entertainment is. He has gotten a little bit fat and lazy, and he is cashing business deals right and left, and the fans of the sport are sniffing out, it feels like you care about this less than we do. And Tony Khan and CM Punk, I don't know if you saw the quotes, Stugotz, from CM Punk, as the secondary market is $1,000 tickets and the line to concessions and buying merchandise goes 2 stories because WWE did not respect CM Punk, and CM Punk is being quoted as saying, I couldn't spiritually, financially, mentally, emotionally go back to the thing that made me sick in the first place, which is working for Vince McMahon with whatever it is that felt like. Vastly underestimate what that guy's value still is. Vastly underestimate what is good in wrestling. Tony Khan loves that sport, loves it, cares about it in a way that the fans care about it.
In a way that Vince used to care about it. I mean, that's what it feels like.
And still does. He's just more disconnected from what the fan wants. Like Tony Khan is 40 years younger. He is more connected to what wrestling fans want, it would appear.
That's a Freudian slip by you, but it's an interesting one because Vince McMahon has hired Nick Khan, who I'm guessing doesn't have this kind of feel for what does my customer love the most. Can I meet my customers' enthusiasm because I love this just as much? Nick Khan is an agent from CAA.
He's a deal maker.
He's an assassin. Yes. He is here to do business deals, but does he understand his product? Because they're letting the good guys get away, Stugotz. The discerning wrestling fan can see, no, wait a minute, why isn't WWE paying their best guys? Why do you think these guys are this interchangeable? And then CM Punk is the story of the weekend, Stugotz, in sports. A fake sport that the most diehard aficionados would get enraged by calling it a fake sport. One team seems to understand it, and AEW is buying up everything, and it is the proverb, Stugotz, that I told you about a week ago that you hear throughout sports all the time when people are making religious and spiritual references. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then they die. You're watching the top of wrestling get eaten up quick. All the 40 bleeping years of Vince McMahon putting this on cable television, back to when he was just a sideline reporter for this stuff. He was Gene Okerlund. He was Craig Minervini. He's a sideline host, 40 years of fat, dominating that world, and now cashing in on the end of it with streaming. But you got an agent to run your business, and marketers and television people, and AEW is closing that gap fast.
To answer your question about the wrestlers being interchangeable, I don't think they are. We talked about this with UFC earlier, where the fighters, I believe, for the most part, are interchangeable. Fans just want to see 2 guys in an octagon go at it and beat the holy hell out of each other. But in wrestling, you grow an attachment to these guys who are wrestling where I don't think they're interchangeable at all.
But the business guys got to understand the heart of that.
Well, they don't.
But I don't know whether they do or they don't, but they're not acting like they do. You've got Vince McMahon has an agent running the business side, and an agent who's making a lot of money right now off of all of these deals. And AEW is run by somebody who actually cares about how good the product is.
And they're not only so invested in the stars, they're invested in how the stars are managed. Bray Wyatt was a massive star in WWE, and the fans feel like they ruined his character arc. You have to build him up so that he is an indomitable champion, and then they had him lose several times. They're going, well, what happened to my guy, Bray Wyatt? Like what happened to him? And they like, the booking is a huge part of being a wrestling fan. And so they screwed him up. He's no longer WWE. And the fans end up resenting the company for not handling the guys that they love in exactly the right way.
It's been a theme in today's show out of nowhere, Stugotz, but I would say leadership across sports during a pandemic when we saw greed at every turn just ravage human bodies in pursuit of profit in the most overt way we've seen in our lifetime, reducing it to a business. The most important thing for this business and the people running these businesses to monetize those businesses is, can you match in your broadcaster, whether it's Tony Romo or John Gruden or Pat McAfee, enthusiasm, John Madden, enthusiasm. Can you care about this the way your customer does?
The way your consumer does, right?
Can you
and
care?
if you can, man, it
But
will go a long way.
it is, I'm telling you, Stugotz, I don't think there's anything more important in the emotion business than that if you actually want to monetize something that is pretty soulless, which is business. If you want to know how the way to make your way to riches through broadcasting or through running these empires, do you love it the way your fans do? Because it's the only way that you can understand them. Or are your fans credit cards? Are your fans just plastic? They're just something that the streaming service needs because you're a handful of numbers.
Or can you sell it? Can you fake it? Can you give the appearance that you care about it the way the fans do?
This is what I'm telling you. The people who love it the most are so discerning. They sniff that out and they resent it, they hate it, and they take their business elsewhere. If they think you're
But that's
faking
a small
it,
amount of people, though,
but
dude.
McAfee's not faking it.
Right.
Tony Khan's not faking it.
No,
But
you're
they're
right.
loud. That's the thing, those two guys, they might be a small number, but as we learn with Jeopardy, they're very loud.
Mm-hmm.
They will tell you, you don't respect this the way that I do, in huge numbers that end up becoming overwhelming.
It's crazy to me, though, that the big business of Jeopardy and the big business of wrestling, they seem, as we talk about them, if you don't care about these things, you're like, what an absurd thing to be passionate about. But if that's what you think of your customer, that is how you lose your customer.
WWE SummerSlam is trending on Twitter right now. I mean,
What is your point?
I think fans just, I think WWE has most of the good wrestlers, and I think fans don't really care. Some do, a very small portion care whether Vince likes it the same way they like it. But fans just want to see the best wrestlers.
I don't think that you're noticing, though, that they're going over to AEW. That's what's happening here. WWE is not making the same measurements on its good wrestlers as AEW is making on them.
I'm just saying it is trending right now, and everyone's excited because the SummerSlam, which was in jeopardy of actually happening, is happening, and Brock Lesnar is fighting in it.
SummerSlam happened this weekend.
Okay.
And the biggest wrestling event of the weekend happened in AEW. This is WWE's arguably second biggest show, if not their third biggest show, behind the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania.
Stugotz, where are you?
But why is one trending and the other's not? I mean, what happened there?
Well, what are you doing? You're trying to get caught up on what we're talking
The
about
only way
by
to measure
just
things is Twitter trends.
Jameis Winston's also trending right now.
He is?
What did he do?
What happened?
Probably did something quirky and funny at practice.
Is that what we're doing now, though? We're just
It can't be. Twitter trends are bogus.
Splash Mountain is also trending, Dan. And Kelsey.
I see what happened. They're sending out highlights from the SummerSlam, and those highlights are trending right now on Twitter, as is Vince McMahon, by the way. I don't know what I'm doing.
I was having a conversation about wrestling, and you just wanted to blurt that
I was
something
just saying
was.
WWE is doing just fine. That's all I was trying to do. That's all I was trying to tell you.
But then you added, and they've got the stars.
Well, they got
and
Lesnar. He's the only one I know.
When's the last time you watched a wrestling show?
if you're going to fake it, would you do us the courtesy of doing it better than that?
You're so right. I mean,
You're sitting in the middle of it, just
No,
faking it
damn it,
poorly.
I'm sweating
no, but are you trying to show us that you know a lot about wrestling by shouting, WWE SummerSlam is trending.
We were talking wrestling, and it was trending. So when in Rome, you know, felt like it added to the conversation. Clearly, it didn't. Sorry.
You just
I just put water all over myself. I'm gonna dump it on myself. I'm sweating through my shirt. He's staring at me. I'm gonna dump it on myself.
no, don't do that. Don't do that.
But I'm
No,
sweating.
Around lots of on wires.
that would be great if he just short circuited. If he actually electrocuted himself instead of just the show.